He said this would be easy. Ah. Oh my God. What's up guys, Chris and Grizzly here from Vo-Gus Prospecting. Today we are exploring a brand new creek. Neither of us have ever been here before, so we're going to wash a few dishes and see if we can't find any gold on this brand new creek. The beautiful thing about research is occasionally it leads you to a place that you didn't know existed, and this is one of those cases. If you're interested in figuring out how I do all my research to find some of your own gold-bearing creeks, I have left a link in the description that will take you to a video that's called Research to Field, and this is how I do my research, so check that video out. In the meanwhile, this is my first spot. I was walking along the creek here and I came to this inside bend, and we've got a huge bank slump. This is what this is. So the creek came down here and it undercut this section of bank and everything just dropped right here, and we've got close bedrock contact, some beautiful looking granite, which means that the gravel sitting down below should be rich with gold if there's any here. It's pretty much all decaying granite, which is a really good sign for trapping fine gold, because there's so many little cracks in between these bits of decayed granite that as soon as gold sinks into them, stuck. It is ultra fine gold. There's a bit just there and a few more bits running along there as well. It is not chunky core stuff, but it's here. So finding this stuff means that we know that there's gold on this creek. So let's find some river gravels and see if we get some better bits. Literally about the same amount of dots and about the same size, so we'll keep looking. Right here we have a koala footprint. It's not every day you get to see one of them. Which means somewhere up there there's going to be a little fuzzy bear. Here's the next spot. We've got lovely bedrock nice and close to the surface, and I don't know if you're going to be able to make it out down there. Let's see if we can filter it in. This is bedrock coming across. It's quite deep. That's probably waist deep down there, so I'm not going to be able to get in there today, but it's right next to this pile of awesome looking gravel. The gravel is on an inside bend, so we're going to be able to take a couple of samples from in amongst these big rocks, and hopefully we'll see if there's any flood gold that's been deposited here from those December floods. Once again, we only got ultra fine gold. Now we are probably 16 or 17 kilometers away from where the gold reef mines were. So being this low, ultra fines is what we could basically expect. Now we are only currently working the very surface gravel, so we're going to dig deeper. The gold we got was about the same, all this sort of really fine micro dots, but down here we've got the December flood layer up the top. That goes for about yay much, and then you've got about 5 or 6 inches worth of sand, nothing in it, and then we've hit old gravel down the bottom. Now that is what I'm interested in. Well, we got right down deep in there, like it's a good couple of foot deep. We hit this grey clay, and I was getting quite excited because it looked quite good. However, that right there is my biggest piece of gold. Grizzly's going fast. Brings me to a really interesting point. So many of my subscribers, you guys, contact me asking for advice about particular creeks, saying, oh, I found this micro stuff and you know, I don't know if it's really good and I need help with the direction in which I should prospect and so on and so forth. And the thing I've got to tell you is this: you need to learn enough about prospecting to self-correct. It's that old adage, if you do the same thing time and again and expect a different result, you must be mental. So if you're doing something that's not quite working for you, you're finding an alright amount of gold, not great, or just a very little amount of gold, try something new. Don't be afraid to step out of the traditional boundaries of prospecting and look elsewhere. Look on the outside bend, look up or high on the bank, look right dead center in the middle of the creek. Have a look. The more you change your perspective, the more the creek will change for you. This is way better looking rock. Look at the different sizes. We've got large river cobbles, we've got very fine dirt and finer gravels, and this indicates itself to depositing gold. If you've got one rock that's dominating, so for instance up here it is all very fine, then this is likely not going to be holding gold. The same goes if it's very large rocks. The pressure in the water is probably too high and the gold won't settle out, so a mixture like this is perfect. Which brings me to an interesting point about your time frame. So much of gold prospecting is about timing. Now we all know floods move gold, but there's something else you got to take into consideration. It takes time for gold to settle through the layers of dirt. Now we've had several large rainstorms that have caused minor flooding in all of these creeks since the December floods, and this will be creating a system or a setup where the gold will be settling through the gravels that were deposited in December to a lower level. So now we're finding less and less flood gold in the gravels up top because it's sinking, so we've got to dig even deeper. We'll dig down a little bit and we'll see if the soil gets a little bit more dense. That's a good indication that that's where the gold will be. This isn't quite right. The layer itself was packed densely, but the gravel itself is loose. What you want is a dense packed layer of rock with lots of, not clay, but sticky dirt. Dirt that's thick and has consistency between those rocks. This dirt has no consistency. It's all loose, small gravel. Well, there you have it. I mean, we're talking about tiny little bits, but they're a little bit bigger than what I have been finding. literally just more of the same ultra fine gold. The thing that I have learned about this grey clay in any granite based area, now there's two different types, smooth sort of light grey clay and this darker grey that's very crunchy and got lots of particles in it. This stuff's usually worthless. And the only reason I can think that this stuff is worthless is probably because it is old sluice tailings. It usually comes in a very, so it can be a very thick layer, but usually a very thin layer, and it just holds no gold, nothing settles in it. So that's not a great start, but who knows? I think that means that I'm gonna have to travel like way further upstream to get any kind of result from here. In this creek, I know from the historical records that all of the reef mining was done in one very small location. At the moment, it's somewhat inaccessible, and that's why I decided to start down this end of the creek. You can't really help that, can you? What can you do? It's worth the shot. And hey, I know that there's gold here. I know there's gold very far away from the original source. So the chances of a deposit are real. I'm just gonna have to do a lot more looking. Well guys, that's all I've got time for today. It has been a fun little test panning trip, but I've got to make it home so I can do some food shopping. I do hope this video has also given you some insight that will allow you to find some of that beautiful gold on your next prospecting trip. Let me know how you go in the comments below, and if you've got any other tips or tricks for people who might be reading the comments or watching this video, leave them in the description. It's a big community effort, and together we should be able to get out there and hopefully retire early. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to hit that like, share and subscribe button. Peace, and I'm out.